Welcome to the incredible journey of Albert Einstein today. We're diving into the extraordinary life of Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds to ever walk the earth. His life is a testament to the power of perseverance, curiosity, and unwavering dedication to discovering the truth. As we explore his remarkable story, I encourage you to focus not only on the content, but also on the English vocabulary and phrases introduced throughout. This story isn't just about learning English. It's about how persistence, curiosity, and passion can lead to greatness. So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and let's dive into the life of the genius who changed the world. The quiet beginnings of a genius. Albert Einstein was born on March 14th, 1879, in the small town of Ulm, in the Kingdom of Württemberg, Germany. His parents, Hermann and Pauline Einstein, were ordinary, hard-working people. Hermann worked as a businessman, involved in the electrical industry, while Pauline was a loving homemaker who had a deep appreciation for music and learning. At first glance, there was nothing extraordinary about their son, except for one thing. He was born with an unusually large head. His family joked about this, wondering whether he would grow up to be a normal child. Little did they know, this boy would one day change the course of history. From the beginning, Albert was very quiet. He didn't speak his first words until he was almost 3 years old. This delay in speech worried his parents and concerned those around him. Some people even thought there might be something wrong with him. His family affectionately called him the quiet one, because he was always silent, even when other children around him were actively chatting and playing. However, Albert wasn't quiet because he was slow or dull. He was silent because his mind was constantly working, thinking, and processing the world around him. Even at a young age, Albert had a deep curiosity about how the world worked. He spent hours sitting and observing the world, trying to make sense of it all. One pivotal moment came when Albert was 5 years old, and his father gave him a small compass. At first, Albert didn't understand how it worked. How could the needle always point north, no matter how he turned the compass? His fascination with this tiny object grew. He stared at it for hours, pondering the invisible force that made the needle move. This experience had a profound impact on him and sparked his lifelong curiosity about the unseen forces that shape our universe. He would later say that this small moment left a lasting impression on him. Early education and struggles. As Albert entered school, things didn't go smoothly. His teachers had a strict, rigid approach to education, focusing mainly on memorization. Albert, however, had a thirst for understanding. He wasn't interested in memorizing facts without truly understanding the concepts behind them. He was a thinker, always asking questions and seeking deeper explanations. This made him stand out, but it also caused friction with his teachers. They were frustrated by his constant questioning and often saw him as a troublemaker. One teacher even told Albert, "You are a disgrace. You'll never be successful in life." These harsh words stung, but Albert didn't let them discourage him. He continued to be an independent thinker, believing that asking questions and seeking the truth were far more valuable than simply following instructions. Although Albert struggled with subjects like languages, he had one great passion: mathematics. He saw mathematics as the language of the universe and loved solving mathematical problems. It was like solving puzzles for him, and he excelled at it. His love for math would later form the foundation of many of his most groundbreaking discoveries. Albert's family, especially his mother Pauline, was always supportive of his interests. She encouraged him to learn the violin, an activity Albert initially disliked. However, over time, music became more than just an obligation. It became a way for him to relax and clear his mind. Albert's uncle, Jacob, also played a significant role in his intellectual development. Jacob loved math and often taught Albert in a playful and creative way, comparing mathematics to a treasure hunt. This approach made learning fun, and Albert began to fall even more in love with numbers. Unlike most children who spent their free time playing games, Albert spent hours reading books and imagining how the world worked. He loved stories about great scientists, and he dreamed of one day making important discoveries of his own. One day, while walking home from school, Albert asked himself a question that would shape his entire life. What would it be like to ride a beam of light? This question stuck with him for years and marked the beginning of his lifelong journey to understand light, space, and time. A difficult turning point. Moving forward. Despite setbacks, when Albert was 15, his family's life took a difficult turn. His father's business went bankrupt, and the family had to move to Italy. Albert, however, stayed behind in Germany to finish his schooling. He was lonely and unhappy being away from his family. The strict rules and harsh teachers at his school made him even more disillusioned. Eventually, Albert made the bold decision to leave school before graduating. Many people thought this would ruin his future, but Albert believed that true learning didn't come from following rigid rules. It came from curiosity, exploration, and self-study. Instead of remaining in a classroom, Albert decided to study on his own. He read books on philosophy, science, and mathematics, teaching himself everything he could about the subjects that fascinated him. At the age of 16, Albert wrote his first scientific paper. Although it wasn't perfect, it was a clear sign of his incredible potential. Albert also applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, but failed the entrance exam because he struggled with non-science subjects like French and history. However, instead of giving up, Albert worked even harder, improving his weak areas and preparing for the exam a second time. Finding his path. A clerk at the patent office. After eventually passing the entrance exam and enrolling at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic, Albert's journey was far from easy. His rebellious nature made it difficult for him to fit in. He didn't follow the usual curriculum, preferring to study the subjects that fascinated him, like mathematics and physics. His professors, who were used to students adhering to the traditional path, didn't understand him and often criticized his unorthodox way of thinking. Despite this, Albert remained focused on his passion for science. After graduating in 1900, Albert struggled to find a job. He applied to several universities, hoping to become a professor or researcher, but was rejected each time. His professors, who didn't understand his potential, didn't recommend him. This period was tough for Albert. He had worked so hard for years, only to face constant rejection. But he refused to give up. Instead, Albert took any job he could find to support himself. In 1902, he found work as a clerk at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. Though it wasn't a glamorous job, it provided Albert with free time. He didn't let the job get him down. Instead of being discouraged, Albert used this time to think deeply about his scientific ideas. He called the patent office his thinking lab. While reviewing patent applications, he would scribble down his thoughts on the nature of light, space, and time. He didn't let the mundane aspects of his job interfere with his bigger dreams. The miracle year. 1905. In 1905, at the age of 26, Albert Einstein published a series of scientific papers that would forever change the course of physics. That year, known as Einstein's Annus Mirabilis, Miracle Year, saw the publication of groundbreaking work in several areas. Photoelectric effect. Albert explained how light behaves as though it is made up of tiny particles called photons. This discovery later earned him the Nobel Prize in physics. Brownian motion. Albert proved the existence of atoms, which was a revolutionary discovery at the time. Special theory of relativity. This was his most famous work, where he introduced the idea that time and space are relative, not absolute. From this came the famous equation, E equals mc squared, which showed the interchangeability of energy and matter. These papers shocked the scientific community. Albert Einstein, a humble clerk with no formal academic position, had just revolutionized the field of physics. The impact of these discoveries would resonate for generations. Fame and continued success. After 1905, Albert's life took a dramatic turn. His work caught the attention of scientists worldwide, and he began receiving offers for teaching positions. He became a professor and traveled across Europe, spreading his groundbreaking ideas. Albert's humble nature remained unchanged despite his newfound fame. He continued to challenge the boundaries of science, believing that there was always more to learn. In 1914, Albert moved to Berlin and took a prestigious position at the Prussian Academy of Sciences. This was a turning point in his career, as it gave him the freedom and resources to focus entirely on his research. During World War I, Albert spoke out against the war, advocating for peace and harmony. In 1919, Albert's general theory of relativity was tested and confirmed by British scientists. The confirmation of his theory, which showed that gravity could bend light, made Albert a global icon. Newspapers around the world hailed his discovery, and Albert Einstein became a household name. Advocacy for peace and scientific progress. In the 1920s, Albert traveled the world, giving lectures and inspiring future generations of scientists. He used his fame to advocate for peace, saying that peace could not be achieved by force, but only through understanding. He also supported minority rights and the rights of refugees, using his influence to speak for those who had no voice. Despite his worldwide fame, Albert remained humble. He didn't care about wealth or appearances. He continued to live simply and focused entirely on his work. His later years were marked by a deep curiosity that never faded. Even in his old age, Albert continued to ask profound questions about the universe. He focused on finding a unified theory that would explain all the forces of nature, a quest that still remains unsolved today. In 1933, with the rise of the Nazi regime in Germany, Albert fled to the United States. As a Jewish scientist, he was in great danger. In the U.S., he became a professor at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. Although he was heartbroken by what was happening in Germany, he remained hopeful, saying, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." Legacy and final years. Albert Einstein passed away on April 18, 1955, at the age of 76. His contributions to science and humanity are unparalleled, and his name is synonymous with genius. However, his story is not just about intelligence. It is about perseverance, humility, and the power of curiosity. Albert's life teaches us that greatness isn't about being perfect. It's about being passionate, persistent, and unafraid to challenge the impossible. Even after his death, Albert's words and ideas continue to inspire generations. His story proves that one person, no matter their struggles or background, can